Biden admin reverses Trump ban on Chevron pumping Venezuelan crude oil. Now, it seems like Biden does everything he can to screw over our country. He's not doing anything to put our best interests first. He seems like he never put our country first. Instead of opening up some of these leases where we can pump oil in our own country, he does it in other countries. I mean, just more evidence, more stuff that's piling up to show that Biden really don't care anything about us Americans that are suffering. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Now, when you hit that alarm bell, you click it again, and you can change it from personal to all. That way, you get all notifications from when I'm putting out stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. And there's also a link to my Instagram where I put out even more news. So check that out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. On Saturday, the White House unveiled a monumental shift in its Venezuela policy. Given only a short time ago, Washington didn't even officially recognize Nicolas Maduro as the socialist Latin American country's legitimate ruler, announcing the easing of oil sanctions, which allows Chevron to pump Venezuelan crude and export into the United States. Chevron was forced to halt all drilling there just under 3 years ago due to the Trump administration sanctions, also amid a U.S. policy that recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president. Bloomberg confirms following the fresh White House statement, quote, Chevron received a 6 month lease, 6 month license that authorizes the company to produce petroleum or petroleum products in Venezuela, according to a general license from the U.S. Treasury Department. The San Ramon, California-based driller is also allowed to resume exports of crude oil that have been halted since 2019 when the U.S. Ratcheted up sanctions against the OPEC producer. Again, why go into other countries? We have plenty of oil here. We have plenty of land here where we can pump some of this oil. But I guess to make himself look good to the environmentalists, he's not doing it here. He's doing it in other countries. But it was in April 2020 that Chevron was ordered by President Trump to, quote, wind down its oil fields in Venezuela, which also meant withdrawing or decommissioning its extensive machinery and infrastructure there. For this reason, Chevron CEO Mike Wirth recently estimated it would take months and years in order to begin to maintain and refurbish field and equipment and change any investment activity. For this reason, many are seeing the White House conditional 6 month license as a completely unrealistic timetable and constraint. So he's saying this. So he's doing this to basically say, hey, look, we're doing stuff to try to open up oil, to get more oil, even though it's going to take years before they can even start using some of that stuff there because they have to redo the infrastructure and a whole host of other things that they're having to do just to get oil out the ground there. So this 6 month lease that he's given them is not really going to do anything. This is the Biden administration for you. Incompetence. Chevron, as the last major U.S. oil company to operate there, had before the oil. Chevron, as the last major U.S. oil company to operate there, had before the oil embargo invested in Venezuela's oil fields and machinery over the last century to the tune of an estimated $2.6 billion. As Dave Campbell of antiwar.com previewed earlier, the U.S. might soon grant Chevron a license to pump oil in Venezuela in a move that would ease crippling sanctions that were imposed on the South American country by the Trump administration. According to the Wall Street Journal, the easing of sanctions is contingent on the implementation of a $3 billion humanitarian project that is expected to be announced by President Nicolas Maduro and his opposition this weekend. The project would be paid for with Venezuelan funds that have been seized by the U.S. The license Chevron would be granted would still be limited, as it would allow the oil company to regain partial control of its oil production in Venezuela, but it won't be able to build new facilities until debts are repaid. The Trump administration began imposing harsh sanctions on Venezuela in 2017 and really ramped them up in 2019 when the U.S. recognized opposition figure Juan Guaido as, quote, the interim president and backed the failed coup attempt against Maduro. The U.S. continued to increase sanctions on Venezuela following the failed coup, and the country is essentially under an economic embargo. The Journal report said that the license for Chevron will put the company under a framework of sanctions similar to the ones that went into effect in 2019. And U.S. sanctions on Venezuela have had a devastating impact on the civilian population, but the Biden administration's steps to ease sanctions are likely an effort to keep global oil prices down, which I don't think is going to help anything whatsoever. That's what I was just alluding to. It's not going to help because, again, it's going to take time, and they said possibly years, until they can start pumping oil again because they have to rebuild the infrastructure and stuff. So this is really just a shot in the dark. It's not going to help anything. The move comes as the U.S. and its allies are planning to implement a price cap on Russian oil that could backfire and cause Russia to significantly cut production. And I think that's what they want. They want them to cut that production. They want this oil crisis that's going to come. It's going to be really bad. You think we had it bad before? You wait until Russia starts squeezing, start shutting off their pipelines, and OPEC already said they're not going to be pumping. That they're going to lessen the output of oil that they put out. So it's going to get really bad, really quick. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.